it's in every right.
Good evening. Tony, what happened? Tony, you look kind of... Oh, there you are, Tony.
There we go.
Is this
good girl? This is Bessie.
Bessie or Betty?
Bessie. The
With
story was with an S.
Oh, okay.
The story was when
can't do my Frank Spencer impersonation. Ooh, Bessie.
Ooh, Bessie. When we went to the shelter and found Bessie.
Yeah.
Because it is quite an unusual name, I think, for a dog.
Yeah.
And what they told me, it's quite interesting. It's quite interesting, everybody. Okay, it's quite interesting. So
good start to a story.
I'm priming you.
Very good. You've done an NLP course, haven't you? Yeah.
It's not good. I'm not racist, but no, it's a good story. It's a good story.
Some of your best friends are NLP practitioners, right?
So, what she told me is that after a while you run out of names. So they start coming up with ideas like, so this was famous opera singers from the 1920s.
All right. Okay.
So, Bessie is after, who is she? Bessie
Longmuir.
Bessie, opera singer from the 20s.
It's not on the tip of my tongue, quite honestly.
No, I think she.
While you're researching,
Bessie Smith, the blues singer from the golden age of jazz.
Yes, who she could play did she have a little like ukulele type guitar that she used to play as well, Bessie Smith?
I think it was a guitar, but she was just very big.
Oh, okay, made it look like a ukulele.
No, I'm just joking. I don't know. I looked into it much, but yeah.
Right.
Anyway, how's your week been? Of course, I haven't spoken to you for a week.
Absolutely terrible. I'm glad to be here with you just so I can actually get a bit of counselling and support from you.
Yeah.
You of all people.
A bit of tantric time.
I don't, not tantric time. God, no. One step at a time. Tantric Tony. I didn't know you had that string to your bow as well. You're a dark horse. Right. Yeah. Let me just say hello to Bob. I don't know, gentlemen. We swore off politics this week. It's like an itch, isn't it? It's like an itch, along with any media discussing said subject.
Everything is politics, Bob. Everything somehow. Just even swearing off politics is a political position.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I get it. But there are some, there's an.
But I know what you're saying. I know.
Yes, if it's running you. That's not healthy. It's an addiction, isn't it? But if you think, I can handle it, I can watch it and just turn off when I want to. Yeah. So it's up to you, Bob. You're a grown up. We can't possibly. We'd love you to watch the show. T Duck said, I'm at the bar. I won't be watching you tonight. I was like, we don't approve.
What kind of a bar is that isn't showing this show?
Well, that's a good point. We could ask for it to be on the telly on the wall, couldn't he? That'd be a bit different. Yeah. He says he's having a drink, and I said, "Look, we're not happy that we're going to miss you, but we thoroughly approve of your life choices. So well done, T Duck, who will be watching this later on, I suspect." So Bob, at your own risk, somebody called the Portuguesa, saying bon dia there. Skywatcher Carlos, good evening to you. Good evening to you, and Ricardo Moraes. Hello there. Good evening, both. Hi.
I'll tell you what, Skywatcher Carlos, I was watching your live stream the other night when you were setting up and getting ready to take a video of the sun. And as a bit of an audio file, I found it quite interesting listening to the background. There was a lot of background noises around you. I don't know what kind of microphone you were using, but you were picking up everything. I could hear like someone.
What does he do then? What does Skywatcher Carlos do?
Well, he takes a lot of videos of the sky.
Right.
So
is that why he's called Skywatcher Carlos?
What's in a name? Yeah. Also, he lost his car.
What? Oh, I see. Very good. Oh, God.
Stop it, you idiot.
That is not the right one, but it worked. Anyway. Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that the joke? What do you call it? Oh, no, forget this.
Carlos.
Right. Carlos, yeah. Yeah, he takes videos of the sky. Very, very cool videos, by the way. And it's an interesting channel.
It was your own house you were hearing.
No mic, but I could hear something. So it was just the camera mic.
Thank you, Ricardo. My name's Carl. I should know that. Right. I've never had that joke played on me, but I suppose I'm Carl, not Carlos.
So I mean, that maybe that's what was happening by accident, because of course, a lot of us professionals,
yes,
we use microphones that actually cancel out background noise. But
yes.
I also have this. I also have this device, which is a
Zoom
H5, and this kind of does the opposite. So this is what I use when I really do want to capture background, sound, like birds,
streamers,
all that kind of
barking.
All if you ever watching my videos and you can hear those kind of ambient sounds, I've probably
got the zoom up
and then put them in the background to get that.
No, it's not a Geiger counter.
It's not a Geiger counter.
It probably does have that setting.
This is I call this the Swiss Army knife of the studio, guys. I mean, this is an amazing tool. We use this
if you know how to use it, right?
Yeah. I mean, we use
otherwise it's completely over the top. I had an H2. I think I borrowed or was lent an H4 for a little while, and there comes a point. I only want a mobile phone now. I just don't.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but this is my no mobile phone has got like
2 XLRs at the bottom of it.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Not yet. No one cares anymore, Tony.
Electric guitar, drum, bass.
Oh, okay, yeah. Fair
I use this as an audio interface when we were for example. So yes, I get why not everyone would need it, but it's just like for me, it's not just the video. There's also the music, and there's.
You're a Renaissance man. I'm a one-trick pony. So, it's horses for courses to mix up a few metaphors.
But again, I do lots of things badly, as I say.
Well,
or lots of things to like an low intermediate level, possibly.
Yeah, but this is where angels would fear to tread. But there you are producing things. Now, most people stop themselves, don't they? This is whenever that's
right. Yeah. Well, I funnily enough, I've just been having a lesson, a CAE lesson with some Polish students, and somehow it came up in the lesson that I also know how to ride a unicycle, among other things.
It came up. What?
It came up.
How did it come up? You told everybody, you mean?
Yeah, I just laid it out. Well, no, there was a reason. It was in the lesson. There was a picture. There was a picture of it. There was a picture of a unicyclist.
Yeah.
And one of my students actually did say something like,
"Oh, Tony, don't you do that?"
Ha ha. Well, I guess you know how to do that. And I said, "Look, you're not going to believe me."
Actually, yes, I do.
I do. And here's the video evidence.
Yeah.
Just luckily.
This is me doing a bit of brain surgery whilst on a unicycle.
Yes. Yeah, well, I was saying, I was telling them about the tragedy of the relationship between me and my mother, because I actually learned how to play the ukulele, which is something else I know how to do. I think I got a photo.
Well, we had a great time. The small town boy. It was really special. If people haven't seen that was really a special moment on the Good Morning Portugal show. So thanks again for that.
But I learned how to play ukulele around the same time as I learned how to ride the unicycle. And I remember posting. I posted.
There's only one way that can go, isn't there?
I posted a picture of me riding the unicycle on Facebook, and my mum said, "I won't be impressed until I see you riding that unicycle while playing the ukulele at the same time." And that made me give up juggling.
Wow.
Because I was also learning juggling at the same time, and I thought, bollocks, I'm not
seriously. So you got to your limits of being challenged to be a high achiever by an overly how would you describe them?
I don't know. What's that, like a tiger mum, helicopter mum, or something?
Yeah. And perhaps wanting you to do the things she didn't get the chance to do.
Yeah. But I mean, I was a young guy. I wasn't as thick-skinned as I am now. I think I was like 46 or something at the time. So
yeah, fair enough. There was some headroom left.
There was some headroom.
So you said that's it internally. That's it. I'm giving up juggling. I'll teach you.
I'm giving up juggling. I'm not going to juggle because I know what would be next. I'd be there on the ukulele, on the unicycle, and she'd be, "Well, come on, let's see you juggle."
I'm not impressed. Yeah.
It would have been too much.
Well, maybe we can co-counsel tonight if you want to work through that. I mean, I noticed as soon as I asked you to counsel me, you changed the subject and didn't really say, "Oh, what's the matter, mate?"
Well, no. What you know how it is, Carl. We don't. It's not all about you. It's not all about you, is it?
That's not what I was told. What? I didn't get that memo. I didn't get that memo.
God, wants a bit of counselling. Doesn't want to hear about my ukulele story.
In fact, that's what you. So it's all about you. We went straight from the possibility of counselling me into your relationship with you and your mother.
All right, come on then, let's do it.
No, I don't want to now.
Oh, you don't want to see?
Not going to.
Yeah, that's right, Crypto. 333 years. I'm gonna try. I had it at about 446. So I'm gonna trust your math on that. Yeah. This is what I always say to people. I saw someone on one of my YouTube videos saying, "Oh, you're just doing this for the click." I think I told you about this the other week. Yeah, you're just doing this for the clicks. It's like, oh, come on, guys. You know, when I hit the 10,000 sub mark, I'm going to make another one of those videos about
talking of sub marks.
What does that mean?
Talking of sub marks, actually, what I want to say before I launch into Mark Manson, who I thought of as being a sub mark because you made that phrase, you mentioned that phrase. You could maybe make a direct connection between YouTube and Toman or whoever you get your kit from, and just make a hire purchase agreement directly between YouTube and a musical equipment supplier. And so long after you've gone, they'll just be taking money off each other. The wheels of GDP will keep turning in this corner of Europe. Maybe something like that. George Formby. Oh, it's turned out nice again, Mrs. Very good to see you, Gary.
If Toman want to reach out to me, I'm happy to do some product play. I'm happy to do any product placement of any product that I believe in. This is where I would draw the line. What about you, Carl? People talk about this, don't they?
Well, without giving too much away, that's in my dressing down of Mark Manson. You know the guy who made the video about the world's most anxious country?
Oh, yeah, God. Yeah,
I took it to task. I've written about that this week. The editor loves it, so it was brilliant. And whenever she praises my work, I know it's because it's something she wants to say, but I'll get the blame for if it goes horribly wrong. I figured that out. That's how it works now. But she likes it, and she liked me sort of pushing him over and sticking the boot in. Did he do any product placement? Yes, and this is how it went in his video. You know, he's like, "Oh yeah, they're the most anxious people. What the hell's going on here? I thought they just were on sunny beaches drinking cappuccinos." First mistake, obviously. And he's going into all this, you know, academic research. And I clicked. I thought, or I twigged. It's like, well, he's just come up with some spurious theory so he can have a holiday in Portugal and mention his sponsor. So there comes a point in a really awkward moment in his beauty. To be fair, it's a beautifully produced video, really, really good quality, the likes of which you and I would be very jealous of. And there he is saying something like, well, at this point, maybe we should understand what anxiety is. And he comes up with this, you know, list of things what anxiety is, because he writes about it. He's the art of not giving an FUCK author, right? He's written a few books of that kind. And he says, it's really important to have a good night's sleep, or sleep is very important to stop you being anxious. And do you know what? That's a really good moment to mention my customizable mattress cover sponsors, who can regulate the temperature of your mattress or what you sleep on. If you get hot flushes or if you get too cold, this thing regulates. And with his discount code as well, you could get like €300 off it. So God knows how much it actually costs. But it was a very crunchy, awkward segue into that, and then back out again. And obviously he was going to talk about Saudade, but I gave him what for?
Yeah. There's one Portuguese channel who I used to watch a bit, but now he seems to be the e-bike guy. And
who's that?
I kind of don't want.
Oh, he rides around on an e-bike.
Well, he rides around on whatever e-bike he's been given this week, doesn't he?
Which
is now the best one. I can't. You know what? I don't know what. I don't know. Maybe if they give me an e-bike, let's give me an e-bike. We'll talk.
Which reminds me, I was thinking about changing some dollars for euros just recently, and I understand Spartan.
Who could help you do that?
Spartan FX apparently can do that. And especially well if you mention Good Morning Portugal.
Right, I've heard about Spartan FX. They're very good at whatever they do.
Thank you. That's good enough for me for a short. I'm taking that out of the show. Thanks, Tony. I'll split it with you. I got an e-bike, says Skywatcher Carlos. I'll explain it to you. Is this there's going to be a punchline to this, isn't there? I got an e-bike. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
46 is young. I am not there yet, and I do not feel young at all. Now, we haven't ripped into any issues. I haven't been able to share my upset with you this week. I think probably what's going on here, it's like the first little while when you go out for a drink with a mate down the pub, isn't it? So the first bit is like, how you doing? What do you want to drink? Oh, really? You like pale ale? Oh, I don't. And we're skirting round, aren't we? I think we're rimming the edges of the depth, as it were.
Yeah, well, yeah, 46 is young. I'm not there yet, and I do not feel young at all. I would say that every single decade that's passed, I now feel like I get it. I like when I'm speaking to someone who's 40, they feel young to me. Right. But of course, I can remember turning 40 and having like panic attacks. You know what I mean?
Did you?
And I can remember turning 30 the same. I didn't feel it so much in my 20s, you know, because like you get certain freedoms, don't you? As you like this, I know when you turn 18, you get to drink and all that. But there's something about, I think it was Ricky Gervais who's made the point, when you get to, it's not until you get to about 25 or 26 that you can suddenly.
Oh, now I don't know if Tony's pranking me here, or if he's actually frozen in over in central Portugal there. Don't know if this is the beginning of the apocalypse. I'm really not sure what's happening. I don't even know if I'm still streaming myself at the moment. Can someone send me a message so we'll find out if I've frozen and I'm talking to myself in the studio, or if Tony has. So what's happening here? And what I'll do is I'll urge you to go to expateuronews.com, which is it's kind of a website or a blog. And it's where we post up things that we might talk about and often never get around to doing so. So that might be useful. And we'll see. Oh, is he coming back? Thank you. Oh, only Tony's gone. So it's just here on. Do you know what? I feel really lonely now. It feels maybe his dog that was with him earlier on just chewed through the cable or something like that. You are okay. That is a really, really nice validation. Thank you very much. EMP. I would want more warning than that, Ricardo, so I could say goodbye to Tony, because this is our 8th show together, and I'm really enjoying this. And to be robbed of that by warmongers would be really very well. Not to mention all the other death and devastation that it would wreak upon humanity. But yes, this would be an especially poignant and difficult relationship for me to have abruptly ended. I retired relatively early, says Crypto Strategist. Relatively early, 35, and have felt old since. Too much hanging out with other retirees, I suppose. Ooh, yes, there is that, isn't there? And it's like being sort of bad apple syndrome, isn't it? I did urge my father not to move into an old folks home prematurely, because I thought that might happen to him. And it gave him another 20 years of being an absolute pain in the bottom in his local community. Munson, says Dougie. Good to see you, Dougie. Good to see you, Gary, as well. Thank you for that feedback there. And I think you mean technologically rather than emotionally. Possibly. The sun will darken, the moon will fail to give light, and the stars will fall from the sky. Well, you're a flipping... Oh, no, okay. Everything is hunky-dory. He's just playing with us, is Ubi. Right. Really don't know what's happening with Tony. We'll keep our fingers crossed. And yes, you really are it's being so cheerful. What keeps you going, isn't it, Ubi? The apocalypse is nigh. Well, I guess it kind of always is, isn't it? It's our own mortality is our own personal apocalypse, isn't it? Which we might. I didn't think I would be saying this tonight, but we can be mindful of that, can't we? And the grander idea of the idea of this end of the world is really, I think, our own death neurosis scaled up and projected into the rest of the world, and that's why we are so obsessed with it. And now it would appear seems to be a particularly sensitive time for discussions of. This is no laughing matter. Has he been nuked? Like, jokes about people being cut off a year or two ago would be, oh, he hasn't put any money in the meter. Now it's like straight down to, has he been nuked? Is it Russian interference? All that sort of stuff. Tony is on Mayo. Mayo sucks. He said it was. I'm also on Mayo, to be fair, and I'm still going strong here. Well, I'm assuming I am. I've been watching the protest of the farmers in London about the inheritance taxes. Me too. I was watching a bit of that, and I was noticing what a well-behaved crowd they are. Isn't it interesting how the different crowds protesting about things, how they vary, and what the quality of the protester can be very different, can't it? And I must say personally, I have a lot of sympathy with the farmers, and it just seems really kind of churlish that people are taking them to task for being really wealthy and winding them up when they are. I mean, they're not even an emergency service, are they? They're a basic service. To get fed by farmers is so important and so vital, and to mess them around in this way and not have a serious conversation with them is a matter of national security. Where is he? Is he in central? He is in central Portugal, and Vodafone since was Telesale. Oh, have you been with them since they were Telesale? That's an old-fashioned. I'm guessing you've grown up and spent a lot of time, or are Portuguese there, Carlos, and you know all these old brand names before UK Vodafone came in and ruined it all. Right. What I really want, I was going to mention. Yeah, it's okay. Clarkson is with them. He seems to have added some extra ballast, not just because of his own bulk, and he's just recovered, I think, as well from some surgery. So good on him for being there and helping out with that cause. I do hope. I don't think it's a matter, is it, with the farmers, of them just getting what they want, which is actually quite a small issue at the moment. Well, relatively small. They just don't want to pay inheritance tax in the way that they've been asked to by the government. But there needs to be a much bigger conversation, you would have thought, about the relationship between food producers and the nation that isn't mediated politically or mediated by the government in a way that scores political points rather than just gets on with the common sense job of having the nation fed. Farmers aren't wealthy. I know a family with a £12 million farm, but their income is miserable. That's what a lot of them say, Doug, and I'm guessing you do in the part of the world you live in. Farmers deserve support. We need food production. It's just another case of people wanting more services and preferring that other people pay for them. Yes, absolutely. Oh, Tony's back now. And how you doing, Tony? You all right?
I don't know. Who went offline, me or you?
You.
Oh my goodness.
And there, people were. I was saying this is the age we live in. There was, it's a nuclear EMP.
Yeah.
Has Tony been nuked? Back in the day, we'd have said, has he put any money in the meter? Now people say things like this because it's the times we live in.
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, I didn't realize it was me. So I was actually asking if San Martino de Porto had been nuked or EMP'd.
You as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We have to be careful with these thoughts and what we're saying. Otherwise, we're going to make it a self-fulfilling prophecy, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was, my finger was pretty close to the red button, but
you've got it at the moment.
Yeah, I've got it at the moment. Yeah, I've got it at the moment.
Are you looking after it for Joe Biden while he's on holiday in Brazil and signing bits of paper saying, we'll let them use our missiles inside?
Well, he asked me to pass it on to the next guy, along with the baton. So,
yes. The next guy. Well done. We haven't mentioned him by name yet. That's very good. We're on the same page, Geeza. With what, I wonder, about making fun of the nuclear apocalypse. Same happening to farmers all over the world, and yet the recent UN report says famine in 22 countries. It doesn't add up, does it?
Do you know what's interesting? I mean, we can slide it a little bit, seeing as how we're talking about what's going on with the farmers. We can kind of bring it back, I suppose, to
news. It back to what?
News.
Okay. Yeah.
But what I found interesting with the farmers. Now, do you remember a couple of weeks ago we were talking about Starmer's policy that's going to kill pensioners?
Yes.
Right. Now, I remember I saw a very interesting thing that there was an advert on TV that I think the Labour Party put out. No, it couldn't have been the Labour Party. It must have been Reform or someone else that was. Anyway, it was criticising the policy. And some eagle-eyed people noted that the actor, who was obviously an actor playing the part of a pensioner, had a gold watch on, and apparently, there was a bit of kind of sleuthing, and they found out that it was an Omega worth 10 grand or maybe 20 grand or something like that. I don't know if you know the story.
So he didn't need his winter fuel allowance,
right? He doesn't need his winter fuel allowance because he's got that watch. He's obviously rich, right? So this is what was interesting for me, is I saw this kind of pro-Labour sort of lefty kind of group who was suddenly like, oh, they're on it. Oh God, this guy with a gold watch. And then I'm watching it again now, where so I can see a lot of the kind of pro left wing or Labour side talking on Twitter about, oh, these farmers are worth millions. So these, these right-wingers on X expect you to, believe these people shouldn't be paying inheritance tax when they're worth millions. And what's interesting to me, though, Carl, about it is, it's like so multifaceted. It's like, who are these people? Who are these people on X? Are they paid to do this, or are they really, or are they ideologically captured, or who are these people? Because I don't believe anyone doesn't understand the problem with inheritance tax, whatever side of the thing you come down on. Like personally, I think inheritance tax is theft, pure and simple.
But even if and it's different to other taxes in that way. I mean, aren't all taxes theft effectively?
Well, all taxes are theft, but the problem with inheritance tax is the tax has already been paid.
Yes. Having you've paid tax all the way to acquiring the property and then leaving it to your descendants.
That's what frustrates me. And then obviously everyone understands anyway. It's not just farms, is it? It's even houses. Yes. I actually know someone who's going to have this problem when their parents pass away. Yes. They're going to have a problem with the house. They'll probably have to sell the house.
Well, you make a very good point, because in the way that some political figures are blamed for ennobling racism, it's like people always thought that, but they think it's okay to say it now. This is another example of that, isn't it? There are people who have the ideology of like, yes, tax the rich, tax anyone who makes a certain amount of money or over and above a certain amount of money, and they've been emboldened, haven't they, recently? That's the polarity in the culture war with the farmers. It's like, well, they're rich anyway. Doug gave an example of some farmers who have a £12 million farm, but with a miserable income, and that's that farmers and aristocrats alike have that, don't they? They are asset rich.
I remember a few years ago there was the story in London. It was the first £1 million semi in London, and apparently the owner's a postman or something. You know what I mean?
I heard you had quite a big semi in London once.
It wasn't the first either. Wasn't the first,
and hopefully not the last, my friend.
And I haven't found a way. Anyway, let's move on. Come on, let's move on.
Think about unicycling whilst juggling and playing the ukulele.
The Queen Mother. There we go.
No, we are attracting some brilliant minds here. I love the comments. I really do. And thank you for being here, Water Wizard. Good to have your company.
Well, I feel we got some great minds in the chat. And what I would like to know is, one thing I've always been interested in is the idea of because I do accept that we have to have some tax, right? I do accept that, to be honest. I don't know a way out of it. But what I would like to see is I'm sure there must be an amount of VAT that I'm
still laughing at the big semi comment.
that would fund everything. So what I would rather is they have but I mean, last time I spoke to a lawyer about trust, he made the point that you have to have quite a lot of trust when it comes to setting up family trust these days, is because how it works now, for example, with a house, if you more or less just have to sign over the house,
and people get evicted. Your family members will evict you out of your own
house. Know what I mean? You got to trust that in 20 years' time, they're not going to be chucking you out for voting for Trump or whatever.
Yeah, it could happen. Well done. We are 29 minutes in. That's the first mention of Trump this evening. Good work. Well done. Okay, other points that are coming up tonight.
So what I'm talking about is the flat tax. The flat tax. Have you heard of this idea, Carl?
I've heard of Georgian taxes, as in Henry George.
Get rid of all taxes and just have a value-added tax, and that way, the rich will pay more, won't they? Because when they go out and buy
when they want to spend.
When Douglas goes out and buys his next family car. Yes. Which just happens to cost 150 grand or something.
Yeah.
He would pay more tax.
Yes, and he won't feel aggrieved by that. And not that we should be especially looking after the feelings of the wealthy, but it makes sense, doesn't it, that people will gladly pay tax if they've got the money and are spending on things that they would like to buy, rather than feeling like they're being pursued into the back room of the house for every mortal.
Exactly, and that's the thing. I where I prefer value-added tax to say income tax is I think it kind of puts the choice back to you, doesn't it? You don't have to. You don't have to pay tax. You could choose to buy a Mondeo, but rich people won't, will they?
No. Well, some do. I mean, truly wealthy and sensible people do
That's
have.
right.
I was hearing about
true.
a Portuguese family who it was like a proper Dickensian story who own loads of property, really wealthy, and that sort of pau de Deus day when the children come round. It's like a Scrooge-like response from an obvious millionaire. And it's being a millionaire, being wealthy is a state of mind, isn't it? So
yeah.
It's a whole
I approve of that behavior.
What, frugality?
Frugality, yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I think everyone buys too much crap. To be honest,
this is the lefty in you coming out now, isn't it?
Yeah.
It seeps out from time to time. That's an obvious telltale little sign there. The whiff, there's a proper whiff of leftiness there. Now, on tax, before we move on from tax, paying tax, and I think the phrase was over the margin makes sense. So tax once there is a surplus. Don't tax people before they've even got started. That's a big problem in Portugal, isn't it? The taxation burden is so great on people before they've even made any money. And I think that's always an awful situation when you begin to realize as a business that you have to work till Friday lunchtime or something like that. And you've got to meet all your costs, including tax, first before you can make any surplus. And it would make a lot more sense in a sensible society to pay on the surplus, not to pay on the costs.
I would just give people a year off. Try and get people started. Give people a start. Give them a year off. I'd say no tax for a year, because the wheels turn anyway. This is where I think it's just so short-sighted to demand so much tax from people. The wheels turn anyway. People. I don't know what it is. I'm sure anyone who ever comes into my Zoom meetings or into these things must think I've got a house absolutely full of flies, and I don't. I just have one that goes and sits on the camera lens. It's insanity.
Have you given it a name yet?
I haven't given it a name, but I'm open to suggestions. So anyone in the chat,
it's actually huge once it gets close to the camera.
No, it is really big. It's about like a normal fly would be. Yeah, it's about 3.5 foot long, and about
that's incredible.
You
just thought we'd hear it a bit better. Why don't you put the Zoom mic on and we'll be able to hear that 3 foot fly?
That 3 foot fly. Yeah.
I wish we had the same sort of movement. I have seen a farmers' protest long ago, and I filmed it. They were going through Caldash. No farms, no food is what they were saying.
Yeah.
And I think that might have been the previous government.
I think I stepped in a farmers' movement this morning on my run. I think.
Right. Okay. Other comments. The big one. Do we think Brexit was a mistake or not, Ricardo? Do we need to just issue a statement so we don't have to keep talking about this?
All right. I will say my pieces very quickly. I don't think Brexit was a mistake, but I think that it hasn't been implemented.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, it's been disastrous. That's the problem. There's no question. It's been disastrous. That's the problem. And like everything else,
I think if we'd have known how it would pan out, then you would have had to have voted Remain, because for my money, all we've lost are the things I liked about being in the EU. That's all we've lost. So the freedom movement, for example.
Yes, yeah.
I really love my freedom of movement, and to be honest with you, it's one of the reasons. It's one of the reasons why I have to wear a diaper. No, it's one of the reasons. It's one of the reasons.
No, there's a sponsorship opportunity right there, isn't there?
Why I'm back in the I always remember, I can't remember who it was at some charity I worked at. One of the directors, Desmond Dorr, he'd written on his
flies back
letter to everyone that as usual, my movements are fluid.
So I'll be commandeering the lavatory on the 3rd floor for my own personal use.
We all thought that was very funny. Yeah,
that's a turn of phrase of an old aristocrat by the sound of it, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm broadly on the same page as you. I think the effect has been disastrous. Yeah. I think the impulse of wanting to leave the European Union club, which is not in the interest of the small guy, the little guy at all, was a good one. But like with everything, it got animated. It was it's Britain's greatest culture war commodity, isn't it? It wasn't dealt with sensibly, it wasn't allowed to become anything useful because of huge vested interest. It was played out perfectly, I suppose, for the people who run things, I guess.
Well, the thing I said at the time was the reason I kind of stayed out of it was because for me, just on a personal level, voting to remain was a no-brainer. Because just for me, on a personal, selfish level, I like my freedom of movement, and I couldn't give a monkeys if the UK sinks into the sea. To be honest with you, so I can't think like that because, for example, I've got a cousin who lives in Blackpool who has never been abroad because he can't afford a passport. Right, and so when you argue with him about the benefits of being in the European Union, it makes him angry, and I understand that because he's never felt any benefit from it. Ever, as far as he knows. I mean, he may have, you know what I mean? He may have gone to a park that was paid for by our taxes anyway. I mean, that's the other, anyway, don't get me started.
We got him started there, didn't we? Do you think freedom of movement is worse now than before the Great Britain joined the EU?
Well, I think another big problem for the EU, if we're going there, is that the EU started off as it was supposed to be kind of a trade union. And I've heard a lot of people say, oh, well, you know, nobody had a problem when the Brits were going to Germany to be bricklayers and all that kind of thing. But the problem is, I think in the beginning, it was a group of similar nations. Do you know what I mean? We knew we could take it in turn to become those people. But I'm sorry to say it, once they let in countries that were, let's say, not as developed, the economic migrants were causing problems because they would labor for much less than minimum wage. They would accept, you know, so for example, I'm talking about, let's say, Polish labor, for example, who would happily sleep in shipping containers and, you know, accept working conditions and living conditions that were much less. And this is what confused me. This is the first time I started to think, I don't know who the left are anymore, because I would hear the left say things like, oh, well, nobody wants to employ you because you're lazy and, you know, you want to have sick every week. And, you know, why should you have holiday pay? And it's like, hang on a second. When I was in the left, we fought for the right to be bloody lazy. You know what I mean? We fought for a 40-hour week. We fought for a minimum wage.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And now you are completely undermining that. You know, you're saying, oh, well, you know, it serves you right for being lazy. This Polish guy will do my lawn for £3 and sleep in a box.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just insanity to me. It does anger me a little bit, to be honest. You know,
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yes, Geeza, another new name.
And then the other thing was being called racist. Do you remember that? It was like, oh, you're racist because you.
Do I remember that? I've pretty much been called that loads in the last week, and you don't even want to talk to me about it.
Racist against who? The black Poles? What? Like all three of them? Ridiculous. The most. You know. Do you know what happened? Listen to me. Do you know what happened to the EU?
Ricardo.
Do you know what happened to the EU when the UK left? The EU became less diverse. That's what happened. The EU became less diverse. And if anyone wants to talk to me about, like, people could talk about like institutional racism, I'll tell you what's institutionally racist by definition is EU freedom of movement, because it disproportionately favors white Europeans.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know what I mean? I mean, all the arguments, they're just the slightest touch, they collapse. You know
Bloody hell, Ricardo. Please don't ask that again next week, okay? I think we've...
No, but do you know what I mean? Europe is less diverse now. The EU is less diverse now because very diverse UK left.
But that's your pushback, though, against people, isn't it? I mean, that's not an argument you thought you'd be having. That's just your ammo now, isn't it, to push back against the people who.
Well, no, I used it then. I used it then because I had, funnily enough, I had friends working in Manchester, an American friend, and he was saying like, oh, you know, I'm really angry about this because, you know, we've got these Polish guys here working and all, and I'm like, dude, you're from America. Okay, let's have the American Union, okay? And the capital's going to be in Mexico, and all your borders are going to be open. So anyone Chile, anyone from Paraguay, Uruguay.
Well, that's not what they've got.
Come and do whatever you want.
They've got that anyway, haven't they? But not formally.
Not formally.
Right.
No, but do you know what I mean? And I said the same
do.
in Asia. In Asia, I had the same thing. Oh, my husband says Brexit is stupid. I said, well, okay, let's do it here. Asian Union. Anyone can come to Hong Kong from the Philippines, from Myanmar, from Cambodia, from Thailand. It's just like, because people just don't think. They just listen to what the Guardian tells them, or the Sun, or the BBC. Oh, they're all racist. But you know who they're working for? They're working for the rich people in the city. Those rich people in the city don't get impacted by any of the problems, do they? Same as me. I don't even live in the UK, so I don't get impacted by the problems. But I know people who do.
Yeah, clearly you thought about this very deeply and researched it in a way that people who tend to come out with those put downs haven't. But who? My question to you then, and if I am desperately trying to steer this back to my own personal problems here, you might have noticed. I don't think you have noticed, have you?
I've noticed.
Okay, thank you. You haven't.
I'm trying to help you by changing the subject.
No,
I'm old school. I'm old school.
You really are. You're so 1950s when it comes to.
We're just going to change the subject.
Being a friend, changing the subject, getting another drink.
You think you're a woman? Well, you aren't. Let's move on.
That's it. You've nailed it. You're not only old school, you're psychic as well. How did you know that's what I wanted to talk about?
Oh look, I didn't mean to. I just realized we hadn't actually explained what the problem was. What's out there? I'm so indiscreet. Hang on, if we pause it now, can we catch the cable? Is it really live?
No.
There's no delay.
There's none of your massive broadcasting corporation 15-second delay stuff going on here. The cat is out of the bag. I'll just have to face the consequences. Right. No, those people, where are they going to where are they going to learn about the idea? So that person who said to you, oh, my husband thinks Brexit is stupid, and presumably the color drains out of your face at that point and your heart sinks, because like, do I address this or not? On some days it's like, I am sick of those knee-jerk responses. They are so unnuanced. They're so robotic.
Yeah.
And how would that person, this is a general point now, because we can scale this up out of Brexit and look at how we might, on any issue, have those partitions, silos come down, so that there can be a useful conversation where somebody might say, actually, Tony, I'm not just going to write you off as a right-wing bigot, which some people did to me in the last week, which we might get a chance to talk about at some point. But you would get written off, wouldn't you? First of all, you might be quiet about it because you can't be bothered. Then you might say something, and that woman goes back to the husband and says, Tony thinks Brexit's quite a good idea. It's like, oh, well, he's obviously a right-wing bigot. And then that will be one level of where it ends up. And it very rarely, like many other issues, then goes into, and the farmers would be another good issue today, wouldn't they? And every culture war that's raging at the moment, how does it get pushed into an area where there might be a useful conversation?
I think broadly speaking, in the climate of today, it's just it's useless. You're better off. You're better off just not having the conversation.
Really, is that how you feel about it?
Yeah, really. It's almost impossible because so many people in like every single topic, there's no nuance. Yeah. It's become so polarized that it's very hard to find people who are in like the middle, or people have become so ideologically captured. And which isn't to say, and it's difficult because I don't want to come across like, oh, I think I'm right on everything, because I don't, And but to do a kind of a smug, what was the word you came out with? The smugmer of what's his name?
James O'Brien.
It could be James O'Brien.
Yes.
Like there are some issues I really have given a lot of thought to. You know what I mean?
It's such a wanky start to a conversation, though, isn't it?
No, but there was one, for example, tonight I saw in Post Haven.
Well, here's one. Look, Attackums. We have somehow Joe Biden.
What a name, Crypto! I'll tell you what. I was listening to a podcast this morning, and there's this guy called Canadian Prepper. Canadian Prepper here. This is your World War III update.
Doom and gloom.
Yeah, he's a legend. This guy, he's a legend. But yeah, the Attackums rocket. I mean, what a name!
I think it's disgusting. I think
of course it is.
And the British name, there's another one. It's a bit like I saw Elon Musk, the first lady. Was it Pete or you that called him?
I think that's Melania Trump.
Space Karen. Or the first lady are the nicknames for Elon Musk at the moment, right?
Oh, is it? Okay.
Space Karen is quite good.
That's quite good. That's quite
good.
good.
Yeah, and I think First Lady is quite funny as well.
Yeah.
But on X, he posted up a sort of futuristic picture
Mm.
without any words. You know, it was a video meme.
I think I saw that. Yeah,
and I thought, I mean, is this really going to be the highest level advisor to the next American president, or is this a teenage boy's fantasy? And he kind of drifts in and out of those worlds, doesn't he? And this is the same. This is the same to me. These rocket designers, these military weapons people who are like overgrown children who've been well funded to make weapons of mass destruction, and they must be sat in a boardroom coming up with an acronym like ATACMS, which sounds really funny to them because they're not very well or mentally developed or something. How can they do that?
It's obviously
despicable.
Disgusting. It's obviously disgusting. Yeah. I when it comes to like Elon Musk and is it RFK? I always want to say JFK. So definitely not JFK, but RFK and Tulsi Gabbard and all this. I take the position like this. I suppose it could be worse than what we've had before, but I want to see what happens. I don't care if they tear everything down. I'd quite like to, as someone who's not in America, to directly feel the consequences. I want to see what happens.
People say you will, you see, that those who would call you a right-wing bigot will say,
I still want to see. I want to see what happens if they tear everything down. I want to see.
You will anyway. You will anyway.
I want to see what happens if they can bring something out. I don't know if they can. I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's a poison chalice. Yeah.
But I'm interested to see it. I'm interested.
You're interested in a new puppet show. Is perhaps one way of putting it, isn't it? See what it's like in the second half. It seems that it's more profitable to ship products from the other side of the world, and we wonder why we have climate change. That's if we do, Gary. Meet the new boss, just the same as the old boss, just worse, probably a lot worse. Ubi is not a fan.
Who was that said about shipping things across the world? I've had a few very funny experiences, Gary. So, for example, here's a very funny thing. When I lived in Hong Kong, I ordered a pair of sunglasses from eBay. And the funny thing about if you do business in China, after a while, you get to recognize all the OEM stuff. You know what I mean? So you recognize that certain things are sold by tons and tons of different companies just with their brand on it, but it's the same product. But anyway, it was Blues Brothers sunglasses. I needed them for something. I can't remember what, a video or something.
A Blues Brothers tribute.
Yeah. But to order them from China, because Hong Kong, the shipping would have put them at, I don't know, let's say 30 quid, but to order them from eBay, even though they were from a Chinese company, cost half the money, because China, as far as I know, even to this day, has so many clause in so many countries that it basically pays no export or import duty. Yeah. And also the shipping is very, very reduced fee. And this goes back to some deals they made when they were still kind of a developing country, right? So it's cheaper. So I got my Blue Brothers. I was in Hong Kong, which is in China, right? So it was cheaper for me to get my Blues Brothers Sunnies shipped to the UK and then shipped back to Hong Kong.
Incredible.
Yeah. And the total cost was cheaper. And another time I saw an interesting thing similar, and this was the weirdest one, was this was when I was last in Australia doing some backpacking, and we were working in a pack. I mean, this is many years ago, but even many years ago, I saw this. We were working at a farm that grew oranges, and the weirdest thing was we grew oranges and we exported them, and I know that because I would go with the forklift and put them on the lorries that were going for export. But one day we were having lunch and I noticed that our oranges came from Valencia.
Yeah, of course, yes. That's how we roll now, isn't it?
Really produced oranges.
Yes, yeah.
We grew oranges on the farm. Yeah.
Yeah. That's where we're at. That's where we're at.
So I was in Australia. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. But this is where we're at, isn't it? And as Sam Harris is saying,
but Carl, you could take this back to Brexit, okay? Because one of the things people were talking about was, oh, we're going to lose the opportunity to do trade and everything like that. And this is what I was trying to say to people. A big swathe of the British population doesn't care about that stuff. They don't want more junk to buy. They don't care if you can't get strawberries every day of the year. Do you know what I mean? Yes. People are happy to go back to that more traditional way of life. You know, like I remember when I was a kid, you know, you got a hole in your jeans and your mum sewed it.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That wasn't that long ago, was it? But now it's just
buy.
Now it's just buy.
Not in the great sweep of human history,
but
yeah.
Place, buy. So I think a lot of people just didn't care.
Well, these trade agreements could be made if the will was there. You know,
sure.
And it's a real shorthand, isn't it? Just to keep saying, well, that's Brexit. But behind each of these decisions now, post-Brexit, is an unwillingness to do something. You can't just keep saying it's like it's Brexit. We're in the here and now. And deals can be made, and people can.
Yeah, of course they can. Of course they can.
There's no political will to do that, is there? It's useful to have it broken for somebody. It would appear. Right. Let's go through a few of these. We've got lots of comments, Tony. See if you can not respond to them until I've done most of them, and then maybe come back to the one. See if you can not be kind of triggered in a word associate or a comment association sort of game way. Does that make sense?
I'll do my best.
That sound is so uncommitted.
Yeah, well, because I'm already on with Gary's one.
You already gone off somewhere with that, right? Okay, so inheritance tax, definitely theft. Okay, but people don't understand, Tony. Would it appear so? But it's our job to keep speaking to them and trying to talk, right? Let's be vegetarians. Oh no, we're going to be stopping here, I think, with Tony. Let's be vegetarians, all Europe, while Russia is carnivore, expecting a great end for Europe. Yes, I can see. I think what you're getting. Oh, a different Ricardo. That's Ricardo Abonado. Good evening to you. Inheritance tax doesn't rob rich people. Anything over 325 is liable unless you're married. Portugal has quite an interesting approach because I think it's family oriented. There's not inheritance tax here, is there? Unless you, if you reinvest it, there isn't. Or maybe, dear leader, will usher. Oh, okay. So Ubi is trying not to talk about Trump. Not doing very well, it would appear. Or maybe, dear leader, will usher in the new Jerusalem promised in the Bible. That's what Tony's hoping for. And the benefits of Armageddon and the 4 horsemen included no extra charge. I don't think he's a big fan. You can avoid inheritance. Okay, so trusts came up, didn't they? This law resembles the ancient laws of the times of kings who collected taxes in addition to feeding the court, feudal times. And Napoleon, I think, came up with income tax, didn't he? That a lot of other people thought was a very good idea. And that's why it's basically going to be going nowhere. Trusts are useless. A divorce sees half your bequest going to your kids-in-law. Great. Well, if you do not trust your family, you could always integrate a usufruct. What's that like? An agent, a POA or something of that sort of thing. I'm with you on flat tax, says Bob. I've been there for years. Stephen Forbes pushed it when he... Look up Henry George as well. Henry George has some great land-based tax ideas. You can't tax farmers until they've actually grown something. Obviously, that doesn't make sense, does it, to impede them before they've even produced anything. I think that fly on your camera is a Russian spy. Has that occurred to you?
It certainly got me thinking.
Does now. Yeah, okay. Flat tax went really well. Take the poll tax under Thatcher. No rights at all. Pete, not a fan. Taxation is oppression and a simple cure for your fly rate. But then he's got to live in that room with pesticide.
Yeah, that's the problem. I do have some fly spray down here, but I always think if it's killing them.
Humane killers, Tony.
Yeah, very humane.
From China. I'm sure we would be propping up the German economy. You see, there are benefits that are hidden like that, that Gary is proposing there. And we'll never know. We really will never know, will we? Do you think the Brits are too stiff up lips to have another referendum? That I can't see that happening. Can you? It'll be a disaster. Because people just keep on. There should never have been a referendum in the first place, should there? Brexit was supposed to curtail immigration. All it did was reduce the good immigration and ramp up the kind most people object to. It has not halted the 70 young lads on a dinghy phenomenon. I agree. Says Doug, Brexit has not been done. 80% of parliamentarians are still against it. Yeah, and they get their way, don't they? The Brexit that was promised was never possible, and it's meant that those who initiated it managed to escape European taxes that they wanted. Vested interest all the way. Whichever side of the argument you're on, it would appear that the powerful have made Brexit work for them. Why do you want to go abroad when you live in Blackpool? Good question. That's a fair question.
How long since you've been to Blackpool, Gary? That would be my question.
Probably a good 50 years, I suspect. Yeah. All those builders and electricians that used to work in Germany on good money lost out when the East joined the West. Cheap labour. I do not consider any lessening of diversity in the EU to be a negative, says crypto strategist, with a cut of his jib that we've become used to on these Tuesday evenings. I love the Geeza. The Geeza speaks sense. He does. And did I see you've been cancelled, Tony? What's going on your YouTube channel? I didn't get a chance to watch it. What's happened? Has something kicked off?
I made a controversial video.
You didn't?
Yeah. What was the topic? I did this. Oh, yeah. I was talking about privacy laws in.
Oh, yeah. And how silly they are. Partial.
Yeah, and obviously people missed the point. Yeah, I mean,
not
the point
again.
Well, the point I was getting at is, as you probably know, in Portugal, you can make a video. Like I made a video at a market, and as I panned around, you know, someone is in an incidentally. Now, as it goes, they started shouting at me, and I was able to get them out of it. But what happens? The thing is, in Portugal, you could be incidentally, and a lot of people don't understand this. So I had a lot of people on my channel go, no, if you're incidentally in the video, it's not a problem. And that just isn't true. In Portugal, people have the right, if they see themselves in your video, they have the right to make you take it down, you know. And so it can be incidental. So my point was, look, if I'm at like the cheese festival in Oliveira, I'm going to get thousands of people in that video. It's incidental, and any one of them can just randomly say, oh, I don't want to be in that video. And I was talking about the right to privacy. And of course, people, you know, I had one guy like, oh, well, if I catch you taking a video of my daughter at the beach, I'm going to take that camera off you and punch your face. All this sort of nonsense, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I made a video about that. And yeah, even then people weren't happy.
Should we have a moment? Should we just have a pause there?
You know what I mean? I get like, guys, at least watch the video before you start complaining.
No. I think you've made a rod for your own back now, haven't you? But you have become a guy for whom this happens. I do it myself to other video producers. I wouldn't dream of doing it to you because I know you. Whereas there are other producers of videos where I don't watch the video and I make a comment anyway. I put my hand up.
Yeah. No, I have done it, but I stopped doing it.
Like, you know, not you again with your stinky old clickbait. That's that sort of comment.
Yeah,
you know, there's nothing, not a lot they can say about that because it's absolutely true. Right, Daphne.
It's all clickbait.
Of course, it's all clickbait. It does not affect.
What are you going to do if it's not clickbait? You put up a black rectangle and put our video as the title.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Anything else is clickbait, isn't it?
To me,
listen, I thought of a definition because I know we spoke about this last week, and I thought of a definition that would make it kind of more clear what clickbait is. To me, clickbait, right?
You should do a video about this.
Is when what's in the video doesn't match what your title and your thumbnail.
And it's oversold. There must be an element of overselling.
That's the clickbait.
Yeah.
That to me, that's what that is.
I think we've got Pete going as well. It does affect people in cities. Health and care worker visa applications dropped 83% after rule changes. The number of people applying to come to Britain on a health and care worker visa has dropped significantly after the major change. Tony, be fair. People who work in the city have their own issues. We now have bonus clawbacks, and the price of Coke has been facing.
It's a big problem. The price of Coke, it's something I've been worrying about quite a lot. And I do think that working class people in the northeast who get
by, get through the day,
grab a Coke for 50 quid should have more empathy for people in the city. Yeah, I get it.
Oh, are we talking about the popular soft drink, or are we talking about the illicit, the drug, the hard drug of cocaine?
What drug?
Okay, obviously not then. Are we old school or just unenlightened, Gary? Tony, come on. It's okay.
That sounds like a title of a song.
What?
Are we old school or just enlightened?
From an enigmatic
unenlightened
band.
Unenlightened
as well, yeah. He's working on that. He's made a mental note of that. You can see that where he's looking on the screen right there.
Yeah.
Ha ha ha. Carl, a right.
I'm looking. I got to be honest with you. I'm looking at Samantha Fox's tits. But yeah, I can see where you're going with that.
Hold on a minute. Let's hold the right wing bigot thing for a moment, and ask you: were you doing that in your mind's eye, or have you actually got a Sam Fox calendar from the 1980s in your study?
Oh, she's actually here. Do you want to come on camera? No, she's too shy these days.
Come on camera.
Come on.
Stop it. Okay. God.
It's after 7:30, right? When's the watershed?
No, finally we get a chance to talk about the accusations that have been made against me in this last
Come
week.
on, let's hear it, Carl. We're all ready now. We've primed them.
Becoming thicker and faster than Sam Fox at your house, quite frankly.
They're talking about you. Yeah.
Do you mind? Sam, wait, he's trying to work, for goodness sake. Stop standing in your negligee on the threshold of the studio trying to to put Tony off his game. Could you look this way?
Come back to bed,
okay. Are you on that bloody computer again, Tony? There's something else I want to say, but I can't possibly. Right. Okay. So you heard about if I was going to have so-and-so on my show, this person wasn't going to watch, right? That was the first blow to my ego and a sense of misunderstanding.
I'm guessing that was one of the Shager guys.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
Oh, was it?
It really wasn't.
Right.
And then I found out last weekend that a friend of mine posted a video of Trump and the First Lady Elon doing that dance after the election, and he posted it in a sports WhatsApp and was like, "What WTF? What is this doing in here?" Someone really took offense to that, and the person just thought it was funny. And he said, "You mustn't put these things in this group, and don't promote Carl Munson and his right-wing bigotry from the Good Morning Portugal show as well."
Wow.
So then I'm relating that story to someone else yesterday who said, yeah, I've got a friend who says, "Why do you hang out with that guy? He's so right wing." And I'm like, this is a lot of news to me in the last week, basically, maybe 2 weeks tops. And it gets to me, and I know it shouldn't, and it doesn't get to me too badly, because I have my ways of dealing with it. But I'm actually surprised. I'm surprised. Here we've got an opportunity here, haven't we, for people to come on and say that and talk to me about it if they want to. And do you think I should just get over myself?
I don't know. It is difficult. It is difficult. It's like I say, sometimes people say this to me, and I say, dude, I don't think there should be banks. I think no individual should be allowed to own more than one house.
Right.
I think wealth should be capped. Do you know what I mean? Like you
have totalitarian views, don't you?
I'm quite like I've done that. Have you ever done that political compass thing?
No, I didn't.
Well, I always end up in around the same place on it. So I'm very consistent on it. I've done it several times in the last 10 years. No. But I'm like center left. I'm center left. I'm not like just left of center. I'm like center left.
Is this an old game? Because the problem with that, from knowing very little about it but still having a massive opinion straight away about it, is how the historical figures were your original political markers. So I just made a joke about Stalin, didn't I? I don't know a lot about Stalin, but I know enough about him to be able to say that to you for the comic effect. Whereas if you say Tony Blair now as a political marker, it's not the same, is it? That's the modern age of slippery political characters. Keir Starmer's another one. Keir Starmer has totalitarian fascistic tendencies under the guise of a late. So what's he going to be remembered for? Is he going to be always a Labour leader like Tony Blair was a Labour leader? But they did they are, and Tony Blair did some of the most disgusting things imaginable.
Yeah, well,
so did Obama, for that matter.
Yeah, I think the problem with Tony Blair and even say Obama is there were a couple of things they did that if they hadn't done them, I think they'd be remembered very differently. Like what I mean is,
example then.
Like, okay, for example, broadly speaking, what about Tony Blair and like the minimum wage? Do you support that?
Do I support the minimum wage?
Yeah.
I haven't really thought about it. I can't give you an answer on that. Rather than just say, well, hold on a minute, sounds about right. Yes, I do. I don't know. I've never even thought about it. I've heard the arguments about it, but I don't expect to be in a position where I'm going to be making a decision about that for anybody else.
Well,
I don't want to employ anybody either.
Let me just give you an example, because I hate Tony Blair because of Iraq. That's it for me. I will always remember him for that.
Yeah,
but I also have to accept that he introduced the national minimum wage, worker rights, reintroduced worker rights after what's her name had run roughshod through them.
Yeah.
Gay rights, including the Civil Partnership Act.
Mm-hmm.
He did integrate the UK more closely with the EU, which may be a negative for some people, maybe not. But what I'm saying is there were things Tony Blair did. Most of the things he did were, I mean, some of them I think were objectively good
and socially useful.
Useful.
Yes.
But what we all remember him for was weapons of mass destruction.
And quite right too. It's a big boys game, politics. And no excuses. No excuses.
It is. But what I'm trying to say is, what I wouldn't want to do is say, oh, that Tony Blair, I hate him for Iraq, therefore let's remove all the rights of gay people to have civil partnership. Therefore, let's scrap the minimum wage.
Yeah,
do you understand what
I'm saying?
Mind
is saying that, though, are they?
Well, I think that is.
That's
happening.
where we've got to. Well,
let me give you an example of something crazy, just to see if you can see what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
At some point, veganism became a left-wing position.
Yes.
Right. I'm a vegan, so I see all this nonsense people put on Facebook about. Like, to give you an example, I even had on my YouTube channel where I made a video about veganism, right? And I had someone put, "Oh yeah, you must want us to all eat bugs like Bill Gates does."
Yes.
I'm like, "What are you talking about, you lunatic? You lunatic?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? I want you to eat bugs. You do what you want to do." I said it in the video.
Yes.
I said, this is what I do, my ethical stuff, not you. Don't be vegan, eat the fly. I tell you what,
bugs.
I may well kill the fly.
We want Tony to eat a bug. We don't want to eat bugs, but we want.
No, but do you know what I'm saying? Certain things have become a left-wing position or a right-wing position, haven't they? So this is what happens to people, Carl, because you're not on board with the whole list.
No, that's what happened to me.
Do you understand what I'm saying? You're not on board with the whole list, therefore you're a right-winger now.
Yeah, and I suppose, to use my logic, people might say, well, broadcasting's a big boy game. If you have people from Shager on your show, you are a right-wing big, and that's all there is to it. I suppose, I guess that would make sense to them, right? That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think the left are worse at this. I think the left are much worse.
You're not going to get through this sentence, are you?
Not
really.
Not the Sam Fox that exists in my mind's eye, my friend.
So she is only in your mind's eye, then. She's not really at your house. Okay, I'm glad.
But do you see what I'm saying, Carl? Because you don't agree with the whole list, you're out of the club, aren't you?
Well, I never have. That's the thing, I suppose. And that's maybe that's where we're onto something here. That most people, and I saw Peter Zeihan talking about how he got the election result wrong. Peter Zeihan, interesting geopolitical commentator, but he was talking about how in the States you've got 30. It's thought that there's 30% definitely Dems, 30% definitely Republicans, and it was thought that there was a swing of independent voters who would choose nearer, on any given election campaign who they were going to go with. But the stats on that show that actually only 10% have a dynamic and active effect on the election. Well, that's how he was justifying, I think.
I suspect. I've got no way of knowing this, but my suspicion is that in the US, and my evidence for this is Obama being elected.
Yeah,
I suspect that if there was like a moderate center-left person on offer, the Democrats would always get elected.
Yeah, but the reason I mentioned that theory,
do you know what I mean?
I
By that?
absolutely know what you mean. But the reason I mentioned that theory is because how many people have that list or subscribe to it? That's what I'm interested in. So I don't.
Not many people, Carla, in that area anymore. I think it used to be bigger. Right. And then the other problem is, as we spoke about last time, now it's binary, isn't it? Now it's either Tories or Labour.
Yes.
Trump or so it's binary. So those people in the middle have to kind of choose either opt out, I'm not playing, or make a choice of the least bad candidate,
and go quiet. Go quiet as well, because as soon as they are, I mean, I think that's what happened in the American campaign, wasn't it? A lot of people went quiet because of that whole, well, if you agree with that thing, you're obviously on that whole list of things. So people stopped. I mean, some people went very open as an emotional reaction. I won't be told what to think or who I am. But I think loads of people went very quiet, didn't they, as a result of that process, that stigmatization, I suppose you could call it, couldn't you? Of if you are a vegan, you want everybody else to be vaccinated and eat bugs.
Yeah.
It
doesn't make any sense, but that's what people.
But it is going on.
A lot of people feel,
it's definitely going on, isn't it? And this is, I guess, essentially the culture war that we find ourselves in at the moment. So what's the solution to that? What do you think might happen? How is that going to be undone?
I don't know.
No idea.
No, I don't know. I think possibly like war or something.
What, to bring people to their senses?
Yeah, it's something
and
big.
Out of that ideological stupidity.
Alien invasion, war.
Yeah, because I'm not saying
something like that.
Ideological stupidity. I'm not talking about the right or the left. I'm talking about the whole damn stinking lot of it.
The other problem is, Carl, I think, is people go all in as well. So to give you an example, you could take any topic you like, and not to bring up a particular topic. Okay, let's say, for example, the trans issue.
Yeah.
Right. And right now, what's the name who wrote the Harry Potter
J.K.
books?
Rowling, yeah.
J.K. Rowling. So she's obviously a leftist on most of her views. Most people would put her on the left, right?
Yes.
But she's a TERF now because she said that she doesn't think that trans women should be able to compete in women's sports, and she doesn't think that trans women should be allowed to use women's bathrooms, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But she does believe that trans women should have equal rights in the law, employment law, and all this kind of thing, and they should be allowed to change their name on. So what I mean is, she's not an extremist, is she? She's not like, oh, bloody trans women, I'll punch.
But part of her fight, and a lot of people in a public position who've become lightning rods for these issues, have that fight on their hands to constantly explain and debrief the fact that they are not extremists, right?
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying is, generally speaking, on any of these topics, if you want to be a proper like on the right, you've got to be anti-immigration. Not, well, I think we should have some legal immigration, and then if people have got genuine asylum claims, we should take. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
No one has a nuanced view on anything.
Right.
Everything's like, open, like it's either open borders or no immigration.
And interestingly, the more they talk to each other, the more they drive each other into those positions.
Yeah. And then that takes me back to thinking, who wants this? Somebody wants this.
Yes. I think we know the answer to that, don't we?
Somebody wants this to happen. Somebody wants us divided.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's getting worse and no one's doing anything to solve it. And even the rhetoric.
Well, only we can do that. Only we can do that. And that's why I do get a bit butthurt by being misunderstood, because I think, okay, well, there's another job to do there. That needs to be put right in a sense, because it's not correct. And it is part of the division. You know, people are dividing themselves from me because of what they believe to be true about me, which I don't think is true. And that exactly feeds what you're talking about, which I think is a loss for our social space. That's why I do it. I mean, people do ask me, my wife included, why do you bother spending so much time talking to these people who seem to hate you or whatever. It's because of what you just said, because I think the social space is sacred. Community is sacred. And when it breaks down in this way, something is lost. So it's worthwhile.
Yeah. But I do think I'm more, you're an optimist, Carl, and I value that about you. But I'm much less optimistic about it. I think this is just going to get worse and worse.
I've also got my darkness as well, though.
Yeah, I think this is going to get worse before it gets better. And I think there's going to come a point where, we're going to have to just start shooting people. No, I don't know.
You've gone to the ducks.
No,
you've ordered. If you order one of those smack 'em up missiles via China, you can get it much cheaper.
Smack 'em up missiles,
whatever it's called.
Attack 'em. Yeah. I mean, but smack 'em up. That's going to be the next. That's probably.
Did you see those brilliant videos of a guy interviewing people at an arms dealer conference saying, do you know where I can get the baby shredder from?
Yeah, I saw.
And the look on their faces, I'm so glad that, I mean, those guys need to be brought to their senses, don't they? With the impact of what they're doing, this disgusting trade. And I don't know, what do you think they did with that? I mean, on a human level, that must be an awkward. You'd hope
they're not human. They've sold their souls. Evil is real,
irredeemably. That's what you think, because I'm an optimist.
Evil is real, and it took me until maybe I wasn't prepared to accept that until I was all in on Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens and all that. I was all in. And then I've just seen too much now. So it's real. The devil is real. Evil is real.
Yeah.
And there's monsters. There's monsters walking among us.
Yeah, but that shouldn't stop me being optimistic, I don't think. I recognize that as well. I recognize that capacity in human beings. And, so if that is the case, which it looks like we both agree it is, what do we do about that? And, stay away from it.
Prep, stay away from it. Yeah, live in Portugal.
Don't allow it in yourself.
Keep your eye out for the nonsense. Try and stop too many Americans from moving here. That kind of thing.
my short is going down very well. That I met an American couple recently who just moved.
I love Americans, just for the record.
He does. Yeah, I met an American couple, Tony, at the weekend, and then they're not even going to start a YouTube channel.
Oh my goodness!
Oh my God!
They're not even going to pay double price for a house just voluntarily, which apparently is what they're all doing as well. Yeah.
Whilst pushing up the house prices.
Yeah.
For everybody else.
That's what they do. That's why they're here.
Right. Last few comments then, because I imagine you've probably got something you want to get off your chest before we go. Not yet. No.
Well, funny enough, I do, but you don't want me to.
Okay.
So,
right.
you don't want me to.
Whatever you're looking at, your post-it notes there.
You've managed to stop me from commenting on your how many walls in the world in the Post Haven.
Oh, really? Yes. We haven't talked about anything on them. Why do we bother with that, I wonder?
Well,
it's like, passing wind or water, I suppose, for us, isn't it? It comes uncomfortable. We post it up on the blog and it just feels like, oh, that's dealt with.
Well, I kind of did have something to say about number 2, because I saw the video that came up on X.
Yeah.
The guy talking about all the wars. But I have got a very controversial take on that. Very controversial. And I think I could split the world in half with my
in the way that you disappeared from the screen, that could happen on a sort of wholesale level to humanity if you say what you're going to say. Yeah. We all nurse that, don't we? That we're gonna be like Martin Luther King or JFK or Gandhi and say something that's going to truly change the world. Is this in that league? Do you think what you're about to share tonight?
Well, not really. It was just the point that at the moment, for example, we have the war in what's his name? Israel and Palestine, for example.
Yes.
And I feel it's almost become controversial to be pro-Israel, and I'm very, very pro-Israel in this war. Right. And in fact, I believe that even though, before anyone gets offended, I don't think that most people who are pro-Palestine are anti-Semitic. but I believe that the push to be pro-Palestine is rooted in anti-Semitism. It's rooted in anti-Semitism. And part of what that man was saying in the video you posted is my evidence for this. Because just for example, when people talk about like genocide, it's just in recent years, I think Assad killed 500,000 Muslims in Syria. In Yemen, 230,000 Muslims. Myanmar, 24,000 Muslims, right? And then as soon as Israel does, and those were real genocides. Those were real genocides. Those people had done nothing. They'd done nothing wrong. They were genocides. Now, what Palestine did was they flew over the wall and carried out an appalling terrorist attack. I don't care what happened before. I don't care. They carried out an appalling terrorist attack on civilians. It wasn't a military target. They murdered many, many young people just having fun at a dance party, and they took hostages back. And they reap what they sow. They reap what they sow. And it's very, very sad and tragic that civilians are dying. I get that, but you've got kids. If someone came into my house and murdered one of my kids and then had one of my kids hostage, there would be no mercy, Carl. There would be no mercy from me.
Isn't that different to having a view on an ideological war?
There's a difference between having a view ideologically on war, but what I'm talking about is the specific view about this particular war. Yes. Which to me, I mean, for example, people talk about having a two-state solution. The reality is that if Israel took their fence down tomorrow, the Palestinians would just simply run over and kill them all. There's no doubt about that. People who talk about two-state solutions are just, in my opinion, they're just being intellectually
what do you base that? Why do you think there's no doubt about that?
They tell you that they want all the Jews dead.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. I'm not debating you. I don't know enough about it.
They say it. They say they want all the Jews dead, and my attitude is that there's the solution there. I've often said. People have said to me, "Oh, what would you do if you were a Palestinian?" Well, I'd convert to Judaism. That would be the best thing I could do for my children. Is abandon that religion and abandon those nasty terrorists that are making their life a living hell. While most of those leaders don't even live in Palestine, they're living in 5-star hotels in other countries.
So, what's your thinking about? Did you say giving up a religion or taking one on?
Well, what I'm saying is because people have said to me, well, what would you do if you're a Palestinian? And my answer is I would convert to Judaism and I would try to go and live in Israel.
Right. Yeah.
Which is a secular country, which
no doubt some people do.
Yeah. Some people do. And some people hold
whilst there is a hugely emotional ideological exchange going on, there are also other people living their lives peacefully.
Sure,
and making those sorts of decisions which you just talked about, which
and the reality is that if there's no doubt in my mind that if all Palestinians tomorrow decided, wow, what we're going to do from now on is we're going to work with Israel, we're going to be like peaceful and we're going to be pro-Israel, we're just going to learn to live with these guys because it's never going anywhere and we want the best life for our children, I guarantee you their lives would improve exponentially. I mean, you look at the Middle East on a map, it's such a tiny patch of sand and everyone's so excited about it, but no one cares about the millions of real genocides and the millions of real wars that are going on around the world.
Isn't that because they don't really care about any of it apart from...
It's because they're Jews, Carl. It's because... Yes.
Well, it might... I'm not saying it isn't. Yeah. But I don't see that. I don't see that as a like. I'm not. I'm not.
Gary, there is a moral high ground. One side is terrorists attacking civilians. Okay, there is a moral high ground. I'm sorry, there is a moral high ground.
Right. Okay.
There is.
As in, and I don't know what Ruben Moreira. Yes, it is.
Yes, it is, Ruben.
Oh, that religion is a cancer of society. Yes. Now, I think I've got too many thoughts or triggers going on to respond to you. Actually, no, I do remember now. But I think people couldn't be. I think outrage is not very long lived, And I think what's going on when people become outraged by one issue, when, as you quite wisely put it, they could be upset about any number. If they're upset, there's a moral equivalence, isn't it? If they're upset about that, why aren't they upset about that?
Yeah.
And I mean, perhaps this is even more a controversial thing to say, is because they don't really care apart from the emotional charge they get from making that an interest in their life. Because unless you do have some, you put the scenario to me, what if it's your kids? Well, it's not. It really isn't. And that's one of those kind of sneaky. I've used it myself. That's one of those sneaky kind of debate tactics, isn't it? You kind of draw someone in on that emotion.
I know, but there's also a problem. You know the problem. If you've ever tried to explain logical fallacies to someone, right? If you're a water wizard, dude, I have studied this topic. Okay, yeah. I'm just not. It's just people are so ideologically captured by this ridiculousness. Yeah. We live today. Israel is not going to disappear. Okay. That's it. They are there. They are there. Okay. The Palestinians are terrorists. Okay. The organization that goes into Israel and kills people are terrorists. Yeah. And they murder innocent people. It's not the same. Okay. Killing young people at a dance party is not the same. Everybody's got to just stop this. Everybody has got to stop this. That's not going to
work. It's not the same because you're saying it's not the same.
Yeah, but it's clear. It's clear to me.
God told you.
Okay, whenever the Israelis got into Palestine and murdered people at a dance party and then dragged some back and kept them in tunnels, it's not the same. It's not the same.
They might not have done that, but I'm sure there are many people who will give you their instances to justify how strongly they feel about it, which is an equivalence to how strongly you feel.
Tell me this. On the news, you keep seeing this about Israel's killing all these civilians. Why every day on Twitter do we keep seeing have you heard about this guy FAFO man? Google that. Why do they have actors? Why do they have fake dead dolls? Why do we have video of them showing dead people? But if you watch them, sometimes they sit up to see if the filming is done and stuff like that. If people are dying all the time, why all the fake? Why all the fake news? Because it's not happening. It's not happening. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying innocent people aren't dying. I'm not saying that, and it is tragic and it is awful. But they are not the same.
What do we do about that bit?
They're not the same.
What would we do about that part of it?
Well, the first thing the West has got to do is pick the right side, and the right side in this is Israel.
And you see that as a solution.
Yeah, I do see that as a moral solution. Yeah, as a moral position because it's based on.
No, but a moral position is not a solution, is it? Necessarily.
Well, I think that the West could stop, for example, allowing people to walk through their cities calling for death to Israel,
but
river to the sea.
But those people, you could argue, are the West.
Well, I'm certainly not accepting that. No, I don't accept that they're the West.
Okay,
I don't accept that they're the West.
You don't like the idea that I'm saying they are the West, but from a geographical perspective, they live in the West.
Yeah, I don't believe it's acceptable. I don't believe it's acceptable.
No, I understand. I totally understand.
To come to the West and have that anti-Semitic ideology, and for me, it's quite a shock. It's quite a shock that us in Western Europe or even some parts of Eastern Europe can accept it. And not see it. Are you
shocked that I'm not sharing your outrage?
Not at all.
Right.
Most people don't.
No, okay, right. But is it? Are you not?
I'm not even particular. Listen, look, something people have got to understand about me, and I know it doesn't come across in my videos. And I made a point of doing this today.
Yeah.
In a video, was sometimes I like to get into a role as well. Do you know what I mean?
Is that what you're doing now?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, look at me now. Do I look like the guy? Do I look like the guy I was 10 minutes ago? I believe it. I believe what I'm saying, but I like to, you know what I mean? I like to,
Right. Okay. Well, I'm not sure what to do with that Because were you debating and sort of playing a role there, or do you?
No, I really believe it. I really believe it. I think it's scary. I think it's scary, the level of anti-Semitism that we're seeing in Europe at the moment. I find it appalling. I find it. I literally never said that all Palestinians are terrorists. I know that some of them are, but you know what? Listen to me. Go Google Pew polls. Right now, maybe you're not a terrorist. But you know what? If you think that terrorism can be justified sometimes, then I'm putting you in the same corner. Yeah. And what I would say is that most Palestinians are not terrorists, but I would say that most Palestinians approve of terrorism.
Right. Okay.
You know, and there's evidence. There's evidence for that, Ricardo. There's evidence for that. Yeah.
I imagine where we've got to this evening can be picked up and run with next week. Where I am on this, if I might add this, is I'm sure that all of this sort of petty furore in these comments here tonight will do nothing to
of course
address
it won't do anything.
The actual problem.
And they're just opinions. This is something else that I actually said this on. I don't know if it was today's YouTube video. It might have been. They're just opinions. None of us are going to stop any wars or change anything. And this is where I say I think you're in a way too optimistic, Carl, because we're not changing anything. We're just sharing opinions. But what we've got to do is not like hate each other or fall out or get angry or go, I'm not talking to you because you think this or that. They're just opinions. They're just opinions. We're not changing anything, you know. And I think for many of us, especially as foreigners, as foreigners who are in Portugal, we're probably here because we're trying to step back from it, aren't we?
Yes, you know? I think that. I don't know. I can't speak for others, but that's certainly part of my game plan. To do that, and you know, you can extend this, can't you? And that's what's very interesting to me about this. I do think it's fascinating what you said about moral equivalence, and like if you're going to get upset about that, why aren't you upset about all those other things? And on that basis, I choose not to be upset about any of it if I can't actually do anything about it. And I was, you know, given that the hot topic of the moment is that the West, as we've been talking about, have authorized, not me, I didn't authorize it, but our agents have authorized the firing of Western warfare equipment into Russia from Ukrainian soil. I'm thinking, you know, like that. Remember when Cassius Clay Muhammad Ali used to say, "I've got no beef with the Viet Cong." I don't have any beef with Russian people. I should. And that I should have.
But see, this is what I'm kind of saying with the Israel-Palestine thing, right?
Yes. Yeah.
This is what I want people to think about. Given that this isn't something I'm making up. There've been massive, real genocides in the last few years. Okay, in many places around the world. Why is the media why are people pulling your attention to this war? Why are they doing it? See, in a way,
that's a very important question.
See, I'm kind of more with like, I don't know if Trump's 100% on this, but it seems like what I'm kind of more at is let's say, let's let them get on with it and sort it out themselves. You know, why is your attention being put on it? That's what I'm trying to say to people.
Whilst you feel strongly about that, if pushed, you, in another sense, you don't feel strongly about it at all because it's nothing to do with you and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. I don't think we should be involved. That's what I'm saying. I don't think we should be involved. The only reason I push back is because what annoys me is, to me, it's very obvious. It's very obvious. You only got to think, okay, so your children are being held hostage somewhere. And I know you don't like that, but I think it's fair. And what I was talking to you about, trying to say before, and I went off on some tangent, you know, when you try to explain logical fallacies to some people, right? But then there's the ultimate, is the logical fallacy, because sometimes there is a slippery slope, isn't there? Do you know what I mean? Even though it's a logical fallacy.
I don't know enough about these debating devices to
understand. So what I'm saying is that you were trying to reject my debating device, which was, I said about what if your children were held hostage.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, I wasn't trying to reject it. I was, I think, describing what I think it does. I was looking at the dynamics of it.
Oh yeah.
I don't think you shouldn't have used it or anything like that.
I think it's a real example.
Right. Okay.
So the Palestinians still have hostages. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
And on top of that, we still have people walking through the streets of Western Europe shouting anti-Semitic slogans.
Yes.
Which I find incredible, you know. But yeah,
you
speaking,
have people shouting every slogan of every kind somewhere in the world, don't you? Again, it's that moral equivalence, isn't it? Why is that any more special a despicableness than any other despicableness that's going on in the world at the moment?
Well, maybe it's not, Carl, but I mean, it's happening in massive numbers, and it's having an impact on policy.
And it's important to you, isn't it? I think I get the sense. Well, that's a question. I'm not accusing you of that, but that seems to be a more important thing.
Okay. Let me put it another way. I actually don't think it's that important to me, and I've said this before. For example, with Brexit, would be an example where I'm saying it doesn't really make any difference to me, but I'm trying to have some empathy. Do you know what I mean? I'm trying to have some empathy with people, and that's how I feel about. I don't.
But only if they're Israelis in this scenario.
I don't think there should be people marching through the streets in Western Europe shouting anti-Semitic.
No, fair enough. No, yeah.
You know what I mean? Given our history in Europe, I don't understand why that is tolerated. I wouldn't tolerate it. You know what I mean?
Yes. And that brings us back to
and it is illegal. It is illegal.
Yeah, and it brings us back to whilst it is happening, there must be, or there could be a reason for that.
Yes. So that's what I'm trying to also say to people is don't be dazzled.
Yeah.
Think about why they're trying to do it. Do you know what I mean? Because what you've got to know is the powers that be almost certainly don't care about is Jews or Palestinians. Do you know what I mean?
I think you're right.
In fact, I saw a very funny meme on Twitter that really brought it home for me, which was it was a video of rockets being fired from Iran.
Yeah.
And what do they call it in Israel? The Iron Dome. The Iron Dome intercepted the rockets. And it was an American guy saying, somehow my taxes have paid for both of these.
Which is
you know
true.
What I mean? Yeah. Because they sent all the money to Iran.
Yeah.
So they're using them to make the rockets. And they
our
send all the money.
Our real beef is with evil, isn't it?
Of course it is.
This is what we're returning to that theme, aren't we?
But you have to try and recognize it as well. You know, you have to try and see it. Like this evil fly.
Right, Tony. I think it's time to go. I'm a little bit late for my previous.
Well. Sorry, it's just a bit of philosophy before you go. So
course,
thinking about I know we've both been getting into the sort of meditation side of things, and it was just making me think about like going back to the dinosaurs, and of course it's why the dinosaurs can't why they can't clap their hands.
Right. And you've got an evolutionary theory about that.
Well, have you got any ideas? Why can't dinosaurs clap their hands?
Because I think most of the blueprints and templates we have for dinosaurs are entirely made up by paleontologists who were running out of time before they were writing a thesis, or it was Friday afternoon, and they just thought, if I do this T-Rex like this, no one's going to believe this. And everyone went, wow, that's incredible. That's a T-Rex. And it got stuck. Yeah. And they couldn't say anything. Like a lot of academic positions, I think a lot of them are piss takes, which then get perpetuated by other academics and through the academic, framework, so that they become, like reality. They are with Noam Chomsky's, what's it called? He's not fabricated. Manufactured consent. It doesn't just happen in politics. It happens in every area of human life where people get together and propose things, and so you get a manufactured reality. And I think those sounds are part of that.
Yeah.
So one of the worst.
I think that's a very, very, very deep explanation. What was my question? What was my question again?
Why can't dinosaurs clap, Tony?
Because they're extinct, Carl.
Munson and the Geeza. Munson and the Geeza. Reporting from the scene. Munson and the Geeza. You sin every right.